And now that the NFL draft is in the rearview mirror, it's time to assess what the Buffalo Bills did. They got 88 of their 90 spots on the roster taken care of between draftees, free agents, undrafted free agents. And it's time to assess where this team is and where they will head. I'm Jimmy Jamm from CJ Country Radio. Along with me, Alex Brasky from the Batavia Daily News. And what's your overall thought, Alex, as this draft finished up? I trust this front office. For better or for worse, I trust them, and I felt like this was a really good draft, and they've done a great job turning this team over.
Well, I'm on board with you. My trust level in the head coach and the coaching staff, along with the GM, increases almost every day. And upon my visit to draft day at One Bills Drive this weekend, it really came through even more. Being able to see them in person, break down what they felt they did in the draft, it really gave me a good idea and a good feel for that room. But anyway, I really think that the board fell in the way the Bills wanted it to, especially with Ed Oliver to begin.
Sometimes you just got to get lucky.
Oh, absolutely, and they definitely did. He fits that mold that they need at the three technique on the defensive line with the departure of Kyle Williams, and I'm really excited for what they have going forward.
It's interesting because when you talk about Quinnen Williams, you talk about Josh Allen, you talk about Ed Oliver, everybody said, well, this guy wouldn't have been a fit here or there, but everybody said this is a perfect fit for what the Bills are trying to do.
Absolutely. Like I said, with the departure of Kyle Williams, that three technique is a really important part of Sean McDermott's defense. They play an attack-style defense, and that three technique, which is right over the guard. So that really plays an important role in their defense, and I really think that was a piece that they needed.
A lot of people feel good about this draft. A lot of the pundits do. I know a lot of fans feel good about it. You were there all 3 days at One Bills Drive, and look, the GM and coach are only going to show so much of their hand, how they feel about things. But what was your sense of how they feel like they did?
I think they thought they accomplished a lot. Upon evaluating the draft, they kept hinting at the fact that the board just fell the way that they needed it to almost in every situation that allowed them to take the best player available. And Sean McDermott mentioned that it's not just about accumulating talent, but building a team as well. Here's what Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott had to say.
Yeah, I mean, you lay out a plan and you have all sorts of players back to free agency that you're targeting in various positions, but it's very blurry because there's so many variables that go into adding those guys. The draft's a little easier, but yeah, I mean, I think Sean's alluded to it. We've added players that we feel are improvements to our roster, but it's not just accumulating talent, it's building a team. So we like what we've added. Now it's trying to build this thing and getting these guys in here. And now that we've added these rookies, it's a new group that we have to get to know what they do well, what they don't, what kind of people they are, any injuries. Sometimes you get guys in here and they got a nagging hammy or something going on. So still a long way to go. I think I'll have a better idea of how we look in about a month.
And I would add it's about the process of knowing your team, right? And you really don't have a good feel for who you got or what your team, what your identity is and how it takes its shape until probably the first quarter of the season, really. And that's probably true every year, just about.
Ed Oliver, an interesting selection, a guy who fits what the Bills want to do. The coachability thing that I've heard about, don't know whether that plays into it or not. I don't know how you feel about it. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, there was an incident that happened when he was in college, an incident with his head coach about he had a jacket on when he wasn't suited up to play, and they got into it on the sideline, and it was a big thing in the media. But he commented on that, I think, over his conference call, Ed Oliver did, on Thursday, and he said about that coachability factor, I think that's where those questions stem from. And he mentioned that the team spoke with Coach Applewhite, his coach in college, and he really dampened those concerns. So
it seemed like more of a heat of the moment thing than anything? All right.
Yes, correct. And honestly, he comes across as just a cut and dry guy that just lets you know how he feels. So I think that's just an instance of that, just him just letting you know how he feels in every situation.
Especially when he's singing up the aisle after he's been selected. That was pretty awesome. Yeah. So you have footage of him from the press conference.
Correct.
Yes.
And he really got a lot of questions. First of all, about his love of horses. The media really beat that to death.
You can find a few out here. There's a few.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was one of the media members said he'll have no problem doing that. He'll be able to find some for cheap here. But anyway, he spoke about Kyle Williams. He got a lot of questions on that. He says he's nowhere near to filling that void. He says Kyle Williams is a future Hall of Famer most likely, and he really respects the legacy that he left behind. And when it comes to his coaching staff talking about him, his new coaching staff, Coach McDermott just said you can feel his presence, especially when he visited him on his pro day.
What do I think when I hear I'm Kyle Williams' replacement? I think Kyle Williams is a great player. I think Kyle Williams will wear a gold jacket one day. I just want to come in and compete and help the team in any way possible. I don't even think about that. Kyle Williams is in a league of his own. I haven't even come close to touching. I just want to come in and compete. Back to what he said, actually Kyle Williams hit me up last night and was basically letting me know everything going to be all right, and if you need anything, hit him up. And I told him, yeah, I want to holler at him. I want to pick his brain a little bit, see what kept him around so long, see if he has anything he could teach me. Not much more to say about it. He a GOAT in his own right, so it's just him even taking the time out of his day. He didn't have to do that, so I feel honored.
How did Kyle get a hold of you again?
I'm not sure how he got my number, but he got it, and that's all that matters.
We did, Matt, but I didn't go to a lot of pro days this year, but it is unusual that, in particular, the one that we were at together, that it was at Oliver at the end of the day, and I mean, you could feel him, right? And that's presence, energy. You could feel his presence, his energy, and then when he worked out, you could feel him also, right? And the closer you got, obviously, as you mentioned, the more you felt the quickness, the more you felt the power, the more you felt the juice, and really probably more than anything, the competitive nature of this young man.
And Cody Ford, the next pick taken, basically a first-round guy in the second round. I remember a friend of mine on Facebook saying they didn't get the offensive lineman they needed. Like they got, and guess what? They got it now because the guy's a first-round talent. And what a concept! He wants to be here. He wants to be in Buffalo, folks.
Yep.
Imagine that. But that seems to be this regime. That's how. I think they put that vibe out there. This is a place to be, and I think as even he said, a program on the rise.
Correct. That seems to be a common theme, especially with these new draft picks. You heard that a lot on the conference calls from the later round guys and from Ed Oliver and Cody Ford in their press conference. These guys want to be here, and like you hinted at, that's kind of surprising because the common sense or whatever you want to say around the media,
I've heard
people don't think that people want to come to Buffalo. But contrary to that belief, these guys this year really wanted to be here, especially Cody Ford. He hinted at how the family atmosphere that he really took in just from his visits with the Bills really played into him wanting to be in Buffalo.
Yeah, so one of the local reporters came up to me. He was like asking me about the process and things. And he asked like which team I thought was going to be the best fit and where I wanted to play. And I told him, I was like, I really want to go to Buffalo. And he was like, nobody wants to go to Buffalo. And I was like, I just feel it right now. You know, me and the O-line coach really hit it off. We had multiple meetings between the combine and pro day. It was just great interaction with him. And I could just see this program is headed in the right direction.
Move up for that pick. You only went up a couple of spots, Brandon. Did you knew who you wanted? You want to make sure you got him, or is there maybe something going on where you felt that maybe someone else could take and you didn't want that to happen?
Well, a couple things. One, he was standing out on our board as a guy that we felt worthy. We put the time in and thought he fit what we're doing. And second of all, there was a run on tackles. So that's generally what happens. You see positions. So as it was starting to get thin, we honestly thought, when Carolina traded right in front of us, tackle was one of their needs as well. And they went with a tackle. They just went with a different tackle. So we felt fortunate to get Cody.
I think the most interesting selection out of all the draftees, though, was going with Devin Singletary, running back in the third round, pick 74. And when you talk about measurables, you talk about guys out there who are, there's a couple guys the Bills drafted that are like third or fourth in their Spark score or whatever, and Devin's 114 or some crazy number like that. But Beane sees something in him, you know what I mean? And I saw a little bit in the video, that escapability and stuff. I think he wants a LaShawn type, which I think is very telling. This could open up a whole. I mean, you're gonna play the video of Devin here in a second, but it's a whole interesting scenario right now that LaShawn McCoy had a rough season last year. He's in the final year of a contract. They get a guy who moves a lot like him. They get Frank Gore to be the team leader in that running back room that LaShawn McCoy is supposed to be, but is clearly not been, has not lived up to. It's very telling to me. Wouldn't be surprised if McCoy didn't make it to the season on the Bills roster. He probably will. It's the final season. Maybe they'll try to work with him, make something happen. But it's all I kind of see them working it a little bit.
Well, absolutely. I mean, right when they made that pick, a lot of guys in that media room know a lot more about the Bills and have been around a lot longer than I have.
Right.
And that was the immediate sense from almost everybody in that room is something's got to give in this running back room.
Sure.
Something's going to happen. I mean, they have LaShawn McCoy, Frank Gore. They picked up T.J. Yeldon.
Great pickup.
There's a lot of carries to go around in that running back room. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But you also put it perfectly. He jumps out on tape, Devin Singletary. He just jumps out on tape. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott spoke about that, his escapability. Brandon Beane termed it, he can make guys miss in a phone booth. I thought that was a great way to put it.
It's the things that don't show up in analytics that he can do, and that's why he's taking the chance on him.
Correct. The Bills just thought he was simply the best player on the board, and they believe adding him will even increase that level of competition in the running back room.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, we followed the board, and he was sticking out. And we felt like he was the best player on the board. You got to follow that, and we know we've got some age there too, and so to add a young guy, we felt was a smart move, not only for this year but for the future. And again, Sean said it. We believe in competition, and LaShawn McCoy is still here. Before you ask that question, he's still the starter. We roll the ball out. There's no questions about that. And Devin, just like we've said about Cody and Ed, he'll come in here and compete. And wherever he slots when we get ready to play games is where it'll end up being.
Fourth pick for the Bills in the third round, Dawson Knox. The Bills finally get a tight end, and I was glad they did. Look, Oliver's a great pick. I was maybe a little disappointed about Hockenson not going, but Oliver's a great pick. I'm not mad at it.
You weren't the only one.
Well, the thing with Dawson Knox I think is interesting is there's other receivers on that team at Ole Miss. DK Metcalf got a lot of play. All the wide receivers did. This guy was really underutilized in their offense, and I think the Bills sense that. They're big on prototypes. He's the prototype of what they're looking for at tight end, and they feel like he could be a key contributor and stuff. He's going to be one to watch in camp. I'd even put him ahead of Kroom right now, maybe behind his name escapes you from the Bengals.
Tyler Kroft.
Tyler Kroft right now. Maybe he's number 2 on the depth chart right now, but he's there and he's going to be a factor.
Yeah, same thing in the running back room with those two additions. With the addition of Kroft in the offseason and now Knox coming in, there's going to be a lot of competition in that room. They just say he's purely just a good athlete. Like you said, underutilized in college due to that Ole Miss team having so many weapons. I just don't think there was enough passes to go around there.
Sure.
He didn't have a touchdown catch in college, which is concerning. He also is a former quarterback. He backed up Chad Kelly at Ole Miss. So there's a lot that goes into Dawson Knox. Good athlete, a cerebral player. The Bills are really excited about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very good athlete. He tested well, and was able to see him live this year versus South Carolina. And warming up, you could just see, I didn't feel that they used him to accentuate some of the things that he does well. But he's one of those guys. He is a combo guy. Some of the tight ends we think are truly just an F flex, or some are just a Y that you really don't want to include in the passing game a lot. I do think he is a dual threat, and I think he's got upside. I think the biggest thing that he's had is he's had some durability things that have held him back. But we think we have a good idea of how to handle that, and he'll come in here and he'll compete, with Tyler and Jason Kroom and the other guys that we have on.
Now the Bills also, competition at every position. They got a full linebacker room, but Voshawn Joseph taken in round 5. I think they want him primarily for his special teams ability.
There's no doubt. Sean McDermott hit it on that in the press conference. He says stepping in, especially as a first-year player for Joseph, although he does have the potential to become an every-down player, he says his special teams ability this year will be critical for him not only to crack the roster coming out of training camp, but to really see some playing time as the season goes on. He plays a free physical style, and just like all these players, honestly, the board just fell in the way the Bills wanted, and this is a player that they really are excited about.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when we get here, but, right now where we are on Beauchamp is that he'll come in and play one of the outside positions, whether it's Sam or Will, and then first and foremost try and learn our system and from a line of scrimmage standpoint. But the special teams piece of it too would be critical, and particularly in the first year. Yeah, I would say he plays a free style of football that's rugged, it's physical, it's nasty, and so that's to me what jumps off the tape is he pulls the trigger and then just plays a physical brand of football.
In round 6, the Bills took Jaquan Johnson, a safety out of Miami. Now, the Bills have some talent at safety now, but maybe he's somebody who provides some nickel support for them.
Absolutely. A lot of people didn't think the Bills needed a safety, kind of like with the Singletary situation. They didn't think they needed a running back or a safety, but this regime really just goes with best player available in the draft.
When have we had depth ever, Alex? I mean, you think 2002 roster, maybe?
Completely agree. And you saw it last season. Injuries kind of hampered the Bills at certain times, especially, honestly, with Josh Allen. That one sticks out immediately. But even on the defensive side. So they say you turn on the tape with this guy, and you just see a football player.
And he's a good player with some upside, and, didn't play at a level that most people get a chance to play at there with the top level of talent in terms of the competition, but we hope his best football is ahead of him.
Yeah, I think the thing about Jaquan is he's not a great tester. He's not going to jump out of the gym or run the fastest. But when you turn on the tape, you see a football player, and it's one of the things that Sean and I were talking about earlier. Sometimes there's guys when you're playing in T-shirts and shorts in May and June that really look good, and then there's others that don't. I don't know that he's going to stand out. I'm not saying he won't, but I think he'll stand out when you get 11 on 11 in pads.
The Bills finished up in the draft by taking 2 players in round 7. They take another tight end, Tommy Sweeney out of Boston College. I admit don't know much about him, but obviously the Bills brass does.
Well, with that competition in the tight end room, he brings something that Dawson Knox doesn't necessarily bring at an elite level. Sweeney is a blocking style tight end, whereas Knox, I think, would be looked at as more of a pass catcher. So I think you'd look for Sweeney, if he's able to crack the roster, to compete with more Tyler Croft, his snaps, and I think you'd see Knox compete with Kroom as the 2 pass catchers in that room. But like I said, he's a blocking style tight end. But he is confident that he can both block and catch the ball.
Now, the bottom of the bottom rounds aren't the sexy rounds, but sometimes you find a guy, and the Bills are really good at finding diamonds in the rough. In the 7th round, Darryl Johnson, defensive end out of North Carolina, AT&T. And what can you tell me about him?
He's actually the first player ever selected by the Bills out of North Carolina A&T. So that's an interesting little tidbit from him. The Bills just think he's still developing. He has an athletic skill set. And they thought when they watched him on film, he really played above his opponents at North Carolina A&T, not necessarily a big football school. They really think he jumped out on film.
And it just didn't work out to take a receiver.
Or Sean, Darryl Johnson, how do you envision him? Where do you envision playing him?
You can keep going.
Yeah, I mean, he defensive end would be here. We just think he's, we spent some. Our coach Bill Tierling spent some time with him and one of our scouts, and that's a lower level program. So sometimes those guys are still developing, but by all accounts, great young man. I've not been able to spend any time with him, nor has Sean, but everybody speaks very highly of him. You see a guy on tape that shows athletic ability and a skill set you can tell he's playing above most of the people he's playing against. Still very raw, but we like the skill set and look forward to getting him in here and work with him, kind of like a new piece of clay.
And those are the draft picks. When you look at what the team is doing, like I said, 88 of the 90 roster spots have been filled. There's probably 24 new faces. There could be almost half the roster could turn over by the time training camp is done. It's amazing to see them do it so fast. And still probably have about $20 million in cap space, which could roll the next year. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's amazing how fast it's come. And any final thoughts from you, about any of this? I mean,
well, one last thing is the Bills did sign former UB quarterback Tyree Jackson as an undrafted free agent. So a lot of people question that. They weren't sure we needed, or the Bills needed that. But go ahead.
No, but the thing I was thinking, I would finish a thought on that because here's what my thought is. Tyree is like it's great to pick him up. I got a feeling if he doesn't make the roster though, if he goes to the practice squad, someone's going to snap him up. So another team's going to have a weakness or have a problem at some point. They're going to want a quarterback and they're going to take him. He is a project, but one with a lot of upside.
There's no doubt, and they compare his skill set to a lot of what Josh Allen brings to the table. A big guy, can throw the ball well, a little bit of mobility. So I think that's another reason why they took him. And as well, he has a connection to Josh Allen. During his time at Buffalo, I think he worked with Jordan Palmer, former Bills quarterback, and I think he actually stayed at Josh Allen's house during his time working with the Bills. So I think they're excited about him, and I think that was just throwing the UB program a bone, too. They picked up another defensive back, too, Cam Lewis out of UB. They really like the UB program. But overall, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott are just really excited about what they've done during the offseason. And Sean McDermott says it's a really exciting time to be a Buffalo Bill.
I think I know where you're coming from. I'm excited. The bottom line is I'm excited. I'm excited to be to lead this football team. I'm excited to work with Brandon. I'm excited to work with the great team we have inside these walls, and to be a Buffalo Bill. I'm excited to work with our players every day, our coaching staff, our scouts. We've got a great group of people and a great staff here, and so. It's an exciting time to be a Buffalo Bill and a fan of the Buffalo Bills. I think people can feel the direction of this team and the direction of this organization moving in the right direction, and that means a lot to Brandon and myself, and it means a lot to our players. It really does. I think the players that we've brought in really start to feel and embrace what it means to play for this team and the fan base.
Well, training camp's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I love the way this competition is going to be happening, and people are going to be fighting for their roster lives, and this team could look very different come September. I am going to say real quick, keep an eye on David Sills. I got a feeling as undrafted free agent wide receiver, I think there might be something there. The Bills are so good at finding those guys, finding those lunch pail, diamond in the rough guys, that maybe he's somebody that could catch on with the roster, but there is a lot of talent out there. Going to be interesting.
Yes, no doubt. I think the biggest takeaway from this draft and this offseason is the Bills are motivated and dedicated to solving that conundrum at the offensive line. They got, I think, 14 guys in that offensive line room that they're going to have to find reps for in the preseason, and they're going to have to figure out what combination works. And I think that's really important to Josh Allen's progression as the team goes forward.
I almost feel like he's got so much protection on the offensive line now. It's going to take him a moment to say, look, you don't have to win it all, dude. You got talent around you. It's going to be all right. All right, Bills, you convinced me. I'm going to buy season tickets again this year. All right. For Alex Brasky from the Batavia Daily News, I'm Jimmy Jamm from CJ Country, and we will talk to you down the road.